Good evening, friends. This is Father Tim. It's Monday evening. It's time to pray, but first we're going to spend some time in our continuous reading of Paul's Epistle to the Romans. We are tonight in this third section, chapters 9 through 11. The gospel fulfills God's promise to Israel. And we'll be resuming at verse 6 of chapter 9. And so, friends, chapter 9, here we are. Paul is addressing Israel's past in order to show that the gospel has meaning for Israel as well as Gentiles. The Roman congregation, remember, was a mixture of Jews and Gentiles. And so it's crucial that Paul shows this support for Jewish Christians and shows that Jewish Christians have a place. Chapter 9, verse 6 is our starting point. Let's pull up our timer and get that set, and we'll read. And while we're reading, friends, I encourage you to post a greeting and like this video, and if you've not done so yet, subscribe to the channel. We'll be reading in the left-hand column from the New Living Translation, and in the right-hand column, you'll see that we'll be tracking along with the text as found in the New Revised Standard Version Updated Edition. So, friends, chapter 9, verse 6. Let's read. Well then, has God failed to fulfill his promise to Israel? No, for not all who are born into the nation of Israel are truly members of God's people. Being descendants of Abraham doesn't make them truly Abraham's children. For the scriptures say, Isaac is the son through whom your descendants will be counted. Though Abraham had other children too. This means that Abraham's physical descendants are not necessarily children of God. Only the children of the promise are considered to be Abraham's children. For God had promised, I will return about this time next year, and Sarah will have a son. This son was our ancestor Isaac. When he married Rebekah, she gave birth to twins. But before they were born, before they had done anything good or bad, she received a message from God. This message shows that God chooses people according to his own purposes. He calls people, but not according to their good or bad works. She was told, your older son will serve your younger son. In the words of the scriptures, I loved Jacob, but I rejected Esau. Are we saying then that God was unfair? Of course not. For God said to Moses, I will show mercy to anyone I choose, and I will have compassion to anyone I choose. So it is God who decides to show mercy. We can neither choose it nor work for it. For the scriptures say that God told Pharaoh, I have appointed you for the very purpose of displaying my power in you and to spread my fame throughout the earth. So you see, God chooses to show mercy to some, and he chooses to harden the hearts of others, so they refuse to listen. Well, then, you might say, why does God blame people for not responding? Haven't they simply done what he makes them do? No, don't say that. Who are you, a mere human being, to argue with God? Should the thing that was created say to the one who created it, why have you made me like this? When a potter makes jars out of clay, doesn't he have a right to use the same lump of clay to make one jar for decoration and another to throw garbage into? That's a little bit of a harsher wording, isn't it, than what the NRSV puts. NRSV, you see here, refers to one object for special use and another for ordinary use. It's not quite the same message. It's interesting to see the contrast there. Verse 22. In the same way, even though God has the right to show his anger and his power, he is very patient with those on whom his anger falls, who are destined for destruction. He does this to make the riches of his glory shine ever brighter on those to whom he shows mercy, who were prepared in advance for glory. And we are among those whom he selected, both from the Jews and from the Gentiles. Concerning the Gentiles, God says in the prophecy of Hosea, those who were not my people, I will now call my people. And I will love those whom I did not love before. And then at the place where they were told, you are not my people, there they will be called children of the living God. It's interesting, by the way, that Paul quotes this off the top of my head without going back. Hosea, this, I'm pretty sure from what I recall, is actually not concerning the Gentiles, but concerning uh, Jews and exile and the coming back from exile. At one point during exile, calling the people by the name, you are not my people. And then in the same place, in due time, you are my people. Interesting. Verse 27, and Isaiah, and concerning Israel, Isaiah the prophet cried out, though the people of Israel are as numerous as the sand of the seashore, only a remnant will be saved. For the Lord will carry out his sentence upon the earth quickly and with finality. And Isaiah said the same thing in another place. If the Lord of heaven's armies had not spared a few of our children, we would have been wiped out like Sodom, destroyed like Gomorrah. What does all this mean? Even though the Gentiles were not trying to follow God's standards, they were made right with God. And it was by faith that this took place. But the people of Israel who tried so hard to get right with God by keeping the law never succeeded. Why not? Because they were trying to get right with God by keeping the law instead of by trusting in Him. They stumbled over the great rock in their path. God warned them of this in the scriptures when He said, I am placing a stone in Jerusalem that makes people stumble, a rock that makes them fall. But anyone who trusts in Him will never be disgraced. Chapter 10. We'll just read a little bit here. Start chapter 10. Before we start chapter 10, just come over real quick here and consult our image here. Chapter 10, Israel in the present, covenant relationship based on laws, new covenant family based on faith. Dear brothers and sisters, the longing of my heart and my prayer to God is for the people of Israel to be saved. I know what enthusiasm they have for God, but it is misdirected zeal. But they don't understand God's way of making people right with Himself. Refusing to accept God's way, they cling to their own way of getting right with God by trying to keep the law. For Christ has already accomplished the purpose for which the law was given. As a result, all who believe in Him are made right with God. We're going to pause there, friends. And next time we'll pick up at verse 5 of chapter 10. The last thing I will say on this, friends, is we always need to be careful, especially we who are Christians, even with Paul, even with what Paul has to say about Jews, because we always need to remember Paul's authority is secondary to that of Jesus. Sometimes Christianity has forgotten that and shaped Christianity to be in the image of Paul, not in the image of Jesus. Paul has some rather difficult things to say about the law, which is perhaps more his issue of not being able to keep it. But remember the Gospels. Jesus speaks of himself as the fulfillment of the law, and also speaks of the law as enduring. And just because he has fulfilled it doesn't mean it's gone away. In fact, makes the argument that not one stroke of a letter will pass away. Important thing to remember. After all, remember the chief purpose, the original purpose of the law is God revealing God's self to us to give us a better way to live. Not an easy way, but a better way. That's where we'll leave off for now with Romans. We'll close off this live in a few moments. You'll see a new live open. And in that new live, we'll pray evening prayers. Good evening, Cheryl. Good evening, Dawn and Linda. Thank you, friends, for reading with us.